Great. So yeah, this is the Farming for the Future Working Group's farm viability subgroup, and I'm Andrew, the working group coordinator, and welcome all. It's been a little while since this group has met, but we have two main items on the agenda today to discuss regarding the work that you all do as technical assistance service providers on business training for farmers. And I think this is kind of like we'll start with introductions. Let's do your name and pronouns and your organization. And I didn't think of a question. How about we'll just leave it at that. If you have anything inspiring to say, you can share. And but I'm going to pass it to Tanya, who is been graciously working with me as a lead in this group to come up with agenda items and the focus of what we're all working on. And I think there's some interesting things here today to talk about, specifically around the regional food business center that is being developed. So let's just pass it to Tanya. And when it's your turn, just pass it to the next person.
Great. Tanya Murray, I'm with Oregon Tilth, she, her pronouns, and I am the farm viability specialist at Oregon Tilth. And maybe my one little fun tidbit is I just got back from a 2-week trip, mostly cycling in northern Germany. And so I am relaxed and also jet lagged. And I'll pass to Maya.
That's cool. Super cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Maya, she, her pronouns, and I'm a food and farm business coach with the nonprofit Business Impact Northwest. And I may have to come back around for like something inspiring to think on that. But really good to see several familiar faces. And I will pass it to Sylvia.
Hi everyone, Sylvia, core staff, she, her pronouns, friends of family farmers, farmland navigator. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have anything inspiring to share right now, so I will pass it to Jeffrey.
Hey everybody, Jeffrey, he, him pronouns, Rogue Farm Corps, Future Farms Program Director. Something inspiring last night, I got this splinter out of my hand that has been stuck in there since like Sunday morning, and it was a gigantic splinter. It was so deep, and I would like pack it with baking soda for like 2 days to try to, apparently that's a thing to help draw it out, and then didn't know how deep it was because it was like vertically into my hand. I only saw the very like top of it and just like pull that. Very satisfying. I feel like I can do anything today. I feel so much better. It was starting to get infected. It's all bad. And now it's all good. Okay, I will pass it off to Penny.
Hi, I'm Penny Feltner. I'm the Working Lands Projects Manager for the Coast Fork Willamette Watershed Council. And as we're the conduit between farmers and conservation organizations, we recognize farm viability as a critical piece of that. Fun fact about me is I got to eat 2 pounds of lychee the other day. Rich.
Get unmuted here. Rich Schwartz with Alder Street Consulting. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm based in Portland. Fun fact, let's see, it was my birthday yesterday and we went out to a really yummy dinner. Tanya, we went back to Nostrana, where Tanya and I went to celebrate the end of the National Farm Viability Conference a couple of years back, I guess. So
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And let's see, who else? I guess I will pass it to Lenny.
Hi, thanks. Hi, it's really nice to meet you all. I only know Tanya personally out of this group. So I work independently as a farm advisor. I'll tell you a bit more about what I do since I'm not affiliated with an organization. I just moved my farm to Oregon after building it in California for 10 years. So I'm sort of like a half-time farmer and half-time writer and farm consultant and coach. So I used to teach at Santa Rosa Junior College in the horticulture department. And my farm is cut flowers. So I largely work with cut flower growers, although I started in vegetables. So I feel comfortable and excited to work with all sorts of farms. Really excited to be back here in Oregon. Building a business in a new location is wild, and I would not recommend doing it to most, moving your farm. But yeah, I'm in my second round of doing a professional and producer grant through Western SARE, and Tanya is graciously my technical advisor on that grant. We're studying crop cost of production with 12 flower farms in Western states. And also doing a financial benchmarking piece. So I'm really interested in all that stuff right now and trying to kind of do more research, create more data for flower farms and small farms in general, and then also to teach farmers how to better look at their businesses. I'm actually just finishing a book that'll be published with Chelsea Green in January, a flower farming business book. And I'm just off of 7 years on the board of the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers. So I kind of have time and excitement freed up in my schedule to do more collaboration, hopefully not on a, voluntary basis, who can afford that. But so I'm just excited to be here and to meet with you all and to see how I can fit in and better serve small farmers in Oregon. Yeah, thanks for having me.
You can pass it to someone.
Oh, sorry. And that's it, mic drop. Let's see, D, hi.
Hey y'all, my name's Dee Thompson. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the farm program manager for Oregon Food Bank, where I provide direct support to our Pathways to Farming program, which is a incubator program for BIPOC beginning farmers, mostly in the Portland metro area. But we also have farmers growing out in Gresham, as well as Hood River. And it was like a fun fact. Was that the prompt? Okay, seeing some head nods, seeing some I don't knows. So I'm gonna go with fun fact, which is, yeah, that I just moved in with my partner into our small ADU, which I affectionately call the Witch Hut. And it's been really sweet. And yeah, just really, really grateful to be landed and rooted in a place that feels like a sweet nest for me and also has a lot of growing space that I can do whatever I want with, which has not been the case for many years. So curious who has not gone that I can pass it to.
I can go. I'm Genevieve, she, her, they, them, executive director of Willamette Farm and Food Coalition for about a year now. And we are the regional procurement technical assistance hub for Oregon Farm to School Garden Network. But we have found ourselves more and more kind of just, sometimes people call us and need things. And so I'm currently working on a grant to be able to help support some grant writing for others. So I don't have to freelance it and feel like I have 7 jobs. Fun fact, well, I'm excited. I'm actually going to meet my boyfriend's sister, which is his first family member I'm going to meet today. So both excited and real nervous. And I don't know if anyone else has not gone.
I can go, Genevieve. Thanks. Nellie McAdams, she, her pronouns. I'm with Oregon Agricultural Trust. And yeah, I also don't think that I have any fun facts right now. I'm fresh out. But I will. Andrea, did you go yet? I'll pass it on to you.
Great, thank you. Andrea Kramer, Education Program Director for Oregon Agricultural Trust. She, her pronouns. I really appreciate that my garden is making a lot of excessive vegetables, and all of the critters that live with me, animals, livestock, gets to benefit from that. So a lot of that goes to them and nothing goes to waste. I think Lourdes is next and last.
Sorry, I'm on my cell phone, so it was a little difficult to connect. Can you see me? Hi, my name is Lourdes Herencia. She, her pronouns. I am from Adelante Mujeres. I'm the new microenterprise director, and I think it's my first or second time here. Previously from Adelante Mujeres, Surai, our program manager, was the one participating. Happy to be here. Fun fact, well, I've literally lived in the US and now 4 months, so I'm brand new to the country. I come from Lima, Peru. Very excited to be here. Sorry I haven't joined before, but we were in the middle of a whole restructure, which more to come in the next couple of months. But we are definitely going to have a larger role in agriculture, regenerative agriculture, and farmers market development and market access. So we're looking forward to everything we can do in this coalition. And yeah, that's me. I don't know if there's anyone else that needs to go.
I think that's everybody. Yeah. Fantastic.
Perfect.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you for being here. Y'all's event. I attended briefly your event. I think it was last weekend. It was fantastic. You did a really great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. And great. Well, welcome everybody. This is an excellent subgroup of folks. And yeah, really excited you're here, Lourdes, especially with the micro enterprise work that you're doing and the working with business development with your community. I think it's great that this is just the right group to be connecting with. And so where do we start? I think we kind of want to provide an update on the first topic that we've got here, connecting Oregon farm business TA providers to the new Regional Food Business Center. And I can give it a shot, Tanya, or maybe I know you've met with Lauren recently. I don't know how we haven't really talked about how we want to structure this conversation, but
I can try to start and you can fill in. I don't think everything is figured out, but for folks that don't know, the USDA recently funded, I think it's 12 regional food business centers around the country. And OSU is a co-partner with Colorado State University on the one that is in the Pacific Northwest Rocky Mountain region. And the business centers, as I understand them, are really intended to help build capacity of farm and food businesses through technical assistance, some funding, and then also just coordination of resources. And I think the thread that connects to the farm viability work specifically is really just trying to start to understand a little better what various services we each can provide. And so that at some point, I think the centers are still so new that there isn't really a structure yet set up for like, what will it look like for farmers and food businesses to access technical assistance through them. But it seems like their intention is to be sort of a hub for those services. And so I think it seems like a good opportunity to maybe get a little more organized around the different work that we're each doing in this space. I'll pause, Andrew, and see if you have anything to add that kind of connects to that link to the skills document, which came from another place, but anything more on the centers?
Yeah, there's and I'm going to share this in the chat. OCFSN is hiring and will be housing the new staff. This is the job description with some details on both the center and the position. So our OCFSN will be housing the staff member who will be the RFPC coordinator for Oregon. Each state within each of these regions has their own co-leads, coordinator, and steering committee. And so that position is currently open. They're in the hiring process right now. And just to say there that through our work in y'all's engagement with OCFSN, you'll have a direct connection to that person in that space. So I think it's a great opportunity building this capacity and the building off the work that we're doing as a network to make sure that we're not siloing this work off into its own world. It's definitely connected to OCFSN as a whole. But yeah, and we've heard from Lauren who's one of the Lauren Gwynn and Amy Gilroy at Oregon Department of Agriculture. Lauren Gwynn's with the Center for Small Farms and Community Food Systems at Oregon State University, are the co-leads for the Oregon State team for the RFBC. So those are our two leads there. And Lauren has asked and is interested in, and Tanya, you've talked with her too about this group specifically, who's involved, what services they provide. And so we're on their radar. And I think, like you say, getting organized on how folks want to be represented and is being offered through these coordinated RFPCs, I think is prudent and can be beneficial to the work that you're doing. More access to folks who need services and more access to funding.
So I don't know if this is the right starting point, but and maybe this background is not useful, but if maybe our last meeting, we started creating a document before we kind of were thinking about the regional food business centers. That document is what's linked to in the meeting notes. And that was intended as a starting point for starting to kind of identify our skills. And that came out of a meeting where we had one agenda and then it didn't work out. And so we kind of on the fly decided to start to create that. And I don't know if that is where we want to go now. I think that's open to this group's input. But as a way to start to articulate that, I think one of the things that I have noticed is business technical assistance as a term can be A, maybe sort of vague, and B, even slightly off-putting. And so I think that being more specific so that growers know, like, what does that mean, can be helpful so that people connect with it more. So I don't know if it makes sense, and like this is really for everyone to weigh in on, to like actually open it and work on it in this meeting. But I think the one idea was to start to kind of define more of the different things that we each do in one sort of central place that at this point wasn't intended to be public, but at some point we could create something out of it that would be. So I'll stop talking and let other people weigh in.
So as a service provider who does not provide business TA services, I think having this resource made public would be fantastic, because I'm personally in a situation where being able to create a warm handoff experience to a producer I'm working with to access those services that they need is really important. I don't have the capacity or ability to be able to provide those. So having something like that would be a really great asset, I think.
Yeah, and Penny and a couple of you are part of a grant that I'm writing through the Business Oregon TA program grant. And one of the end goals is to kind of do this definition of what we do and figure out kind of, as organizations, you know, are we duplicating services? Are certain folks able to provide more culturally responsive services or more geographically appropriate, or, you know, all of these things, because, you know, the scale of them, in particular geography, can get pretty limiting, and people are kind of doing the same thing in a lot of different regions. And so then another piece of it is, how do we share information with like organizations, or if you're a farmer who's moving between, you know, states or counties, you know, I think a second that eventually this should become public one way or another.
Yeah, I think that's a great goal. I think part of what could be helpful would be having something that's more intermediary, where actually some of you that are on the call that don't provide the TA could give us feedback on areas that you see demand. Because I think one of my concerns about making it public is that we don't necessarily have that much capacity or funding. And so I just don't want to put something out there that's like, here, there's all these, like, it just really bothers me when there's things that are like, there's all these services, and then really it's like a, you know, bad lead. So just being able to gauge, like, are these topics that you see a lot of demand for, and then hopefully being able to build the funding streams to support that capacity before we make it public would be ideal.
But maybe there could be an internal tool or spreadsheet, because between now and then, when I go to reach out to people, to ask if they want to be part of a project, I'm always going off of just some other thing that I have come across, and I know I'm not doing enough to get to everyone, and there's huge gaps in my knowledge as well. And we don't have the capacity to do everything, even with getting more funding. So I don't want to do that if I can send them, I sent someone a penny yesterday. Yeah.
I can just chime in and share that from the farmers that I support, the main thing in terms of business development or business support that folks are usually interested in is help navigating accounting and taxes, help navigating hiring staff and labor, and everything that's involved within that. And then finally, just budget tracking and figuring out strategic ways to increase revenue, based on their specific business models and whatever's pertinent. Everyone's got a little bit of a different situation, but I know that there's some general goal setting tools, things like that, that can be really helpful for hitting those revenue goals.
Something else small that might be kind of missing as it stands from the document, I saw there's something about access to capital, but maybe access to help applying for grants, whether it's research grants or other funding for farms. Could be another line item.
Yeah, that brings to mind a conversation I had recently with the folks at Ambrook. I don't know if you all are familiar with them, but they have, they started as a company that wanted to build a database of like grant opportunities for farmers, and realized that many farmers were not prepared to apply for grants because, and this D gets to your point, because there was a general sort of slowness or incompleteness on their books and just their general financial readiness, and that has led them to build the product that they have now. But in general, I think that space, could use major support.
We've also had a couple, we haven't had requests for it yet, but people have identified the barrier with some of the USDA grants, that not having the money up front to do a reimbursement grant. So yeah, it's small bridge loans, I guess.
Those 1 to 3 year payouts can be real rough.
So one question I have, and I think probably like adding the more specific topics of TA that we're doing might be better to do outside of the meeting to like continue to hone this. But I guess a question I have is, do we want to have any other categories on here about how we provide the service? I guess one thing that came to my mind was bilingual capacity, but also potentially, I don't know how we would communicate this externally, but internally, I don't know if there needs to be something around kind of current funding situation and how to define that. And there's probably more, but I guess as a group, if we were going to try to refine the document, does it make sense to spend a little time in this meeting making sure that we have the categories we want? And then so right now we basically have name and skill areas, and then kind of our comfort with the skill areas, which might not be the exact way we want to set it up, or our expertise with the skill areas. But are there other topics that would be helpful to have on here, which, I mean, maybe, well, hearing from anyone on that would be good.
I think as an internal document, demographic information would be valuable. You know, where are you located? What something about like staff information, or maybe a short blurb about what your organization is, and just some of that background, just for orientation purposes. I liked your suggestion regarding sort of funding sources, and so yeah, I think just having some sort of metadata kind of context for where this is all coming from, as an internal document, would be valuable.
I definitely agree on kind of funding status or kind of what we have in the pipeline as an organization that we can share. There was a program we did over the winter where we did have funding to support professional service providers for farmers. And so we were able to bring in a bookkeeper and a marketing expert. And I feel like that's a huge need, is getting people access to those types of providers. And so if I had a place where I could share that out, so if there's anyone in your network who could benefit from that, that'd be really cool.
I think it would be helpful to understand if there is capacity for taking on clients. I think that's kind of gets to the heart of this, is like, who's actually able to be a lead for a producer who's looking for this service. And if it may be identifying where, if you aren't, like, where are the capacity constraints, why not, and yeah, how to address that.
I know that there are interagency service networks that operate in healthcare services and social work that implement models that kind of do what I think we're asking of this, is to put a need out to the group and then fill that person's need based on who has expertise and who has capacity. That might be worth looking into, just to see if there's an existing system for doing this.
Do you have a link or a organization name to point us to?
I know I have it somewhere. I will look for that and get back to everyone.
Yeah, share it if you can find it.
When I know a lot of this is up in the air, but what do you think is the general timeline of when this center is established, when funds might be available to propose new collaborative projects, new types of services, new collaboration?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Andrew,
okay.
do you know?
Yeah, I don't. I know that they're hiring and onboarding the next couple months, but that's about all I know. I know there's a big meeting of from all the states in late September, something like that, but I don't have details on, like, when things will go live for folks to access resources, farmers to go on, or those who are developing businesses to go on and actually get TA or apply for grants, or all those things. I don't really know. Probably in a year.
But I think it would be great if, like, even before then, if we had something put together rough for that purpose, to say, look, there are people doing this work, here's what we have. that would just be a great way to move that whole thing forward potentially sooner. So
I think it's also worth thinking about with capacity and everything, the depth of TA, because there's light touch, there's one-on-one, like very serious case management, there's those, but yeah, that certainly affects our ability to provide it ever or our capacity at any given time.
Right, and this seems like such a great opportunity to kind of think bigger and propose new models, but it's also everyone is so bogged down with their current caseload and their current funding restrictions. Yeah, it's tricky preparing for that timeline, but that's it. That Tanya, yeah, a year does seem to give enough time to, if you get serious now. Yeah.
well, for folks that are providing TA right now, like I think I know who that is on the call, and there's some people who are a couple people on the document who aren't here. I'm happy to like do some refinement to this to add some of the things we talked about. And then that would mean that you all would, whoever is going to contribute to it would kind of update a little more with whatever information is open there. I could try to do it in a way so that if you don't like my category options, you can still do some editing. But I don't know if that sounds like a good next step. I'm happy to do that to kind of move it forward, because we do already have quite a bit on here. So it seems like trying to kind of add a little more. And then, I mean, it seems like we could present it to the regional business centers sooner even than later to say, hey, this is what we're working on, and get feedback. Thoughts, other ideas?
Not to put you on the spot, Andrea, but you were asking about this or in emails to me. Is there anything we're missing from your vantage on this topic?
I think it would be helpful. Tanya's last comment, I think, would be super helpful to try to organize this a little bit, because it as you go through that list, and I think I would encourage everybody to re-go through the list again, especially since we've added folks to the call or the group, to re-go through that list again, because it actually took, just as an example, took me a couple times going through it before I realized we completely missed balance sheets on there. So I would encourage folks to maybe go through that list and make sure that in the experiences that you're working with folks in various levels, everything, or at least things, are included on there. And then Tanya, if you go through it and try to reorganize and come in to put them in the buckets, if you will, I think that would be helpful. I'm still a little bit like also the question before that about time frame. That's still a little bit of a mystery to me too. And so it's a little bit difficult to see how this can get deployed or put into use without knowing some timeframes on some other stuff going on. But I think we're on the right track, and I think it's still worth working on. Is that helpful, Andrew?
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I think we're being proactive here. There isn't a state team put together yet. We don't even know who the coordinator is for these RFPC. I think we're being proactive in getting something prepared to, show that these services are being provided in the state already, and that let's not reinvent the wheel and connect what's going on currently to what opportunities are being developed here with the RFPC. So
basically we're going to be standing at their office door their first day.
Yeah. Like, here we are.
That's what I'm envisioning, actually.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah. So I think that's helpful, and thank you, Tanya, for moving that forward as we refine this document as a place to record this stuff.
If you need some back and forth on that, Tanya, just go ahead and shoot it my way.
Okay, great. And I'll say, how about if, because I think if we don't do it soon, it's less likely that we'll do it. How about if you're gonna make an addition before I do some reorganizing, you do it by next Wednesday. So after next Wednesday at 2:00, don't mess with it. But up until then, you can add stuff. And then before it goes to the center, we'll make sure everyone can review.
Genevieve, I saw your comment about making the spreadsheet a Google form. Can you clarify what you mean by that? You're muted.
Sorry. If we're eventually going to build like a searchable database of resources and be able to like skim lists of services and things, my brain works like that. I know that might not, and that's asking extra work for folks who've already put things in. As someone who has not, I understand that, so I don't want to ask more work.
Yeah, I don't want to reinvent. I don't want to do like. I think we're putting this together. It's internal at the moment, and at some point, if we're working with RFBC and we're working with them to put some sort of public facing materials, we're going to need that kind of better managed tracking of this and in a way for those who aren't engaged in this working group to contribute and to do that. I don't think we're quite ready for that yet.
Okay.
And Sylvia and Lourdes, you guys are also welcome to please add a column to this if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look at it. I know I'm just new right now, but I do know that there's been previous work done with other
Yes.
activities. So I would love to take a look and collaborate in whatever possible.
Great.
I know there are some questions about, do we need to be including geography in this other sort of eligibility type things aside from geography and capacity? If there are any other like eligibility considerations for being a landowner being able to access some of these services, since we're in this stage, I think adding them now so we can see all of them and know what to do with them later is maybe a good idea.
Great. I put that down as just another kind of criteria box that we can look at. I guess the last I'm looking at the agenda, but one question we posed that would probably be worth just having this group consider is, are there organizations that are specifically doing farm viability, farm business technical assistance, which I think we can get into like great debates about what does that mean? So hoping not to go there, but is there anyone obvious that is not on this so far that we need to make sure we are including? And I think right now we're keeping it in Oregon, because if not, I could name many folks. Foth. All right, well, I noted Foth, and at some point we can follow up with the folks that are on here who are not at this meeting as well. Andrew, should we transition to the next topic?
Yeah, folks feel good about that. I think we have a next steps in order for this, and we're communicating collectively on this opportunity and in trying to align. And I think that's a good first step for this. And Tanya, I have the list of folks who've self-selected to be a part of this subgroup, folks that aren't in this space or have filled out that form or worksheet. And I can share that list with you, and just if there's anyone that jumps out as we really need to make sure they're on this. We can do some direct outreach. Next, we this is another thing that you brought up, Tanya, in our one-on-one about what you've heard. Maybe I'll let you explain your struggles with this, and then we can talk about it. Yep.
Well, at the I participated in the Regional Food Business Center town hall, which was just a meeting that some of you were at with folks that are doing work in Oregon with farms that were invited to kind of hear about the new regional business centers and regional food business centers. And there was a discussion at the event, and anyone else can chime in and explain more. Trying to, like, I think focused on starting to think about how we might approach these grants that are going to be part of the program that are called the Business Builder Grant, and criteria for those grants specifically. And in that conversation, there was, I think, a question around whether, like, to what extent should there be TA as kind of coupled with accessing that grant. I think that was some part of the conversation. And it seemed like some of the sentiment in the room was maybe less excited about that. And I think that is a thread that I've sort of heard in general with folks. I'm not articulating this really well, so maybe someone else will jump in, but with kind of folks seeing like the farm viability conversation as really being about like profit and capitalism, and like that people are like, oh, we don't want to think about that stuff. And so I guess what I'm thinking about is there a way that the value of this work for, I'm going to say organizations, but businesses, organizations, farm enterprises, food enterprises, the value of doing planning and budgeting, I'll just start with that, that could be articulated better in a way that isn't off-putting because it's too closely linked in people's minds with this capitalist mindset. Because it's certainly not where I'm coming from, and I'm guessing many of you, but I just feel like I'm sensing that sometimes, both from farmers, but also from other organizations. And so I'm curious whether there's some nodding. So if that's something other people have experienced, and then kind of with that, I've just been interested in, like, is there a way we can communicate this differently, so that people are a little more receptive to the value of the work that some of us are doing. I don't know if who knows Julia Shank's work, but she does farm business training work, and has written a book, and does also work training service providers. And she mentioned to me recently that she gave a talk on this topic at a conference. And so she came to mind as like, oh, maybe it would be helpful to have Julia either give a presentation just to this group, or maybe it's to a broader audience, to kind of, again, help us think about how we exist in this space where I think of us as being supporting social enterprises, if you will, that are, yes, there is a focus on many other things outside of profit, but I think that they still need to be run as organizations that ultimately will stay around for the long term, which usually means having a budget and doing some financial planning. So that's the thought there. I would really welcome other folks to chime in.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. I really appreciate you naming that. I guess I can share that with the farmers I support, I feel like the language that we often use is like surviving capitalism. So just that pivot, right? Understanding that we all find ourselves in these extractive systems and we're just doing our best to collectively survive them. And I guess also, like, if there can be investigation with individuals first before like offering said said services that are focused on, just finding my words. Yeah, just focus on profit specifically, to seeing if there even is like alignment first, initially, and then within that too, just even naming the fact that like profit alone is not like a measurement of success for a business, and like just framing it that way, I think can like take down a lot of barriers that people have when it comes to talking about this. Because I think folks, especially the folks I support, there's like a deep understanding that, yeah, we have to navigate these systems and operate within them, especially if we're going to be doing it as a business. So there's an acceptance of that, but it's just like, yeah, some of that language tweaking and like the approach specifically can make a world of difference. So yeah, just really appreciate you naming that, and like the invitation for curiosity around it.
Yeah, excuse me. For me, two perhaps obvious things come to mind when thinking about how to kind of make our case that this work is important and in fact supporting kind of the world we want to see. But first of all, it might be kind of negative, but I think maybe relying on some statistics around farm failure rates, or the number of small farms or even big farms that have gone under, the number of farms that we've all seen who are on the verge of closing down because they can't make their numbers make sense. And these are farms who are certainly sharing goals that the people we're up against are sharing and talking about. And then the second thing would just be some kind of more, still based in kind of statistics and data, but sort of focusing on kind of grant language around the number of farms that we can support who can stay in business due to their attention to profit. They're able to create this many more jobs in their communities. They're able to sequester this much more carbon. They're able to, all the positives that are kind of externalities of them being able to, positive externalities of them doing well and staying in business because they are looking at their books or getting support from us.
Also to add to that, Lenny, is the fact that for Latino communities, the biggest struggle is land access, because they don't have access to long-term leases and or purchase availability as well. So that's a big factor with our farming businesses that we're trying to support, because they don't have that like durability in a single space that will allow them to invest and not be afraid of losing the piece of land. So that's a big factor that's been affecting in our community.
I have so many thoughts on this topic, and they're often pretty pessimistic, honestly. Extremely glad that you're bringing this up and that we're talking about it. I am increasingly of the mind that this is major irony to the programs that I'm a part of, but increasingly of the mind that it is now like mathematically untenable to start a small farm if you don't have some sort of adjacent or inherited resources to do so. Obviously that's exacerbated by other factors such as race and identity. And I think I'm also trying to find my words here. It is so important to, I think, to frame business viability in sort of I guess I'm looking for more. I'm looking for more is what I'm saying, and I don't know what that is. But I just don't see it happening anymore. I mean, even the farms that like occasionally people point to that have made it are often farms that that did rely on some of that outside investment that's no longer available, or they when they got their land deal, whatever it was 20 years ago. I mean, just looking at real estate in the past 5 years and the rate of cost increase there, and how farm potential earnings have barely kept pace, if at all. I mean, not kept pace, but barely risen, if at all, is what I'm saying. Yeah, just I don't see how any framing can resolve that. Wow, this is coming out super pessimistic, especially pessimistic today. But hopefully,
and you took the splinter out.
I know, I took the splinter
what would have
out
happened if
of
you
my
still
hand.
had the splinter?
Yeah, I guess I mean, I have my own existential anxieties about this, because my program is ostensibly there to support beginning farmers in this stage, especially with business plan writing. And at least with ours, I am very upfront. I try to be very upfront all the way through about the challenges of the financial challenges of farming, and then also, just to tie it back to what we're talking about, just recognizing that there are, I mean, throughout the system. Looking at the recent Ag West grant, for example, their requirements are already going to be selecting with bias. They have this, the essay and the business plan that they require applicants write, and spoke with the folks there, and they are prioritizing people based on the quality of their essay writing and their business plan writing. And I'm sure we can all see that there's a major potential failing in that system, because that will select for people who have more time to put into that writing process. That will select for people who have had the training to put those materials together and whatnot. And there are major systemic discriminations in that. And wow, I'm all over the place right now. I'm going to stop myself. I am also reading Julia's book, and it is, from a business standpoint, it is doing as much as it can, I think. It's been a while since I've listened to it, but Sarah Mock, I don't know if you all know that author. She spoke on the Collaborative Farming podcast a while back, and I think spoke a lot of truth about just how much broken mythology there is in this small farming dream in America. And yeah, I had a program participant the other day try to apply for the program, and this is not the other, it's a year ago now. And I wanted to get in brief what his business plan, his business viability plan was. And he literally said, labor is going to be a major issue. I'm like, true. And he said, I'm going to get married and have as many kids as I can and rely on them for my labor issues. And that's what people are resorting to. I mean, there's so much in that. Anyways, so I'm kind of stumbling over my words here, but yeah, appreciate the start of this conversation. Clearly, we're not done with it.
Well, I mean, I hear you with everything you're saying. And I mean, I do think the economics are very challenging at best. And I guess even what I come back to in terms of the business, technical assistance piece, trying to support growers to just have good business management practices, I think to me, it's that's needed, and there's larger systemic change, which in some ways, hopefully, I don't think the business builder grant is the solution to everything, for example, but there has been some more support, and I don't know, hopefully we can continue to advocate for that kind of support to have these small businesses, which, I mean, the other piece of this is I don't think it's just, I think farming's hard and small business is hard, and we're putting them together. And so I just think the work we're doing still matters in the sense that supporting growers with implementing these good practices is important, even if it's not the end all. They're still going to need some more support to address the more larger system changes. So that's my little counter to your
no, I know. And that's the counter I offer myself. what I'm offering is like complete. Yeah, I'm not offering anything really. I'm just venting.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like I'm upfront with my program participants, and if they are in a situation where maybe they have those inherited resources or they have those adjacent resources from a partner or whatever, like they want to make a go for it, I'm gonna be as supportive as I can to help them be as successful as they can. Yeah, I just want them to enter with open eyes.
Yes.
Like, to me, it's more damaging to pretend that like you take this little course and everything is going to be good, or like take care of your books and everything will be good. I mean, there's more to it than that, though they are very important.
I think that's why, like, and thank you so much everyone who shared, because there is a lot of frustration around here, and not being a capitalist and being like, wait, what the, am I a food broker now? Is that what I like? There's been some existential questions in this, but like, I think that for me, I can sleep in it because I'm like, the only way to, beat capitalism is to win it in this way. And so accessing money for people who don't have generational access to it, and then giving them that same shot to be successful. I don't know if any of y'all played SimCity growing up, and I know I'm older than many of you, but the only way to beat the game was to borrow as much money as you possibly could and turn off disasters in the first 5 minutes, And so we can only do one of those things, but we can help people. And in accessing that money. And one thing I've run into is actually the opposite of that, is that sometimes people are too pro-capitalism to want to apply for a federal grant, or to get the help with a business plan, or to be part of a peer learning group. And, the bootstrap mentality runs deep. But I think that when people start seeing the tenacity of the nonprofit sector to kind of fill in these gaps that is left between inherited wealth through generations, and people who are willing to do the work, that the resource center and all of the Farm Bill stuff really gives us an opportunity to redistribute wealth with a pen. And so that's my pep talk to you all. It might not necessarily work in client recruitment, but sometimes it does. Since also like half the people we work with are also farmers.
And we are at 2:30. So sorry, Sylvia, I just want to make sure folks feel free to leave if they need to, but this is a really good discussion. So let's continue. Sylvia.
Yeah, I just want to say that just listening to all this, it reinforced how much this resources and what this conversation, what this group is working to do is needed. It just reinforces the need of this services, to provide those services to our participants that need to understand that business viability for their farm business, to be able to survive, to be able to continue doing what you love to do. You need to have this understanding of the business part of it. My personal story is just a perfect example of that. That having a beautiful, really beautiful farm that produce beautiful food and losing it and not be able to make it for not having the resources or the understanding of the business side. That's the perfect example right there, why this is needed.
And for a slightly different angle, the reason I'm in the room is because a bunch of conservation organizations realized that we don't necessarily need to convert all property back to wildlife habitat, that we do want some of it to remain in farming. It provides a lot of social value to our communities. And that farms themselves, even if they're not restored to, wildlife habitat, they function as agroecosystems, and they are valuable as that. And they can't stay functioning agroecosystems if people can't continue to farm them.
I think this is a beginning of a conversation, or continuing on, that you all do in your day-to-day work, honestly. So appreciate the vulnerability and the real talk here of the struggles that we are all facing, and we're not alone in the farming and food world. This is happening everywhere. And so yeah, let's continue on. Let's be brave in imagining solutions and thinking outside of what is it, Ursula K. Le Guin's the quote about how it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism, just as it was impossible to imagine the end of the divine right of kings. So here we are. Yeah, we'll leave it at that, I guess.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. We'll talk to you soon.